Well, welcome to season 2 of the podcast, The Modern Disciple. My name's Alex, and this podcast is brought to you by Oasis Church. If you're in the South Florida area, Broward County, Miami-Dade, come on out. We're in Pembroke Pines, and super excited to be talking today with my boy Mario. I think we're going to have a really great conversation. We're in the middle of a series called 21 Questions, and we talked a lot about relationships, and I told our church that I'm far from an expert. And so I was sharing a little bit, and I was really excited because one of our dear friends is a licensed therapist, and she was sitting in the front row. And when I was speaking and she was nodding her head, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on to something. Let's go. And so it let me know I was in good space. But I think what's even better is we can dig into the conversation a little deeper because you are a licensed therapist and I am not. And so, man, tell the people a little bit about yourself, about, I guess, what interests you in therapy and what you're doing currently.
Okay, so hi, everyone. My name is Mario Valcine. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. So I see people in person and virtually, a variety of people. I've everything from depression to anxiety to marriage and couples therapy. I really like seeing the moment when, like, the ding of, like, people peep and they realize, oh, like, this is why I'm doing this thing, or this is what this may mean, because truths vary per individual, right? So if this is your truth, okay, now what are my options? And it's less of my job to be like, yeah, these are your options. You should do these things. Like, hey, these are tools, and you tell me what you want to do. What are you capable of doing? So I really enjoy seeing that moment. And sometimes it happens often. Sometimes it doesn't happen for several months or years for certain people. And it may happen even just not with me.
Where did this come from? So were you raised in a family with therapy? Did your family talk a lot, or just come out of nowhere you had an interest in it?
Not at all. So AP Psych in high school, I hated that teacher. I know that's a real heavy word, but she was a monster. She felt like a monster to me. But I was enamored. I was wowed by the idea that we could explore people's minds. And yeah, I barely passed the class then. But I was like, I knew I had to, like, study more of this. So when I got to FIU, I studied psychology and went on to get my master's. I mean, it's the only way you can become a licensed therapist. But yeah, so that's when it happened. It was just being able to explore how people got to where they were was mind-blowing for me.
So fun fact, that was my original undergrad, was psychology in college. And when I loved it. And I feel like it came natural to me. And then when I learned you had to, like, a bachelor's meant nothing in that space, I'm like, oh, okay, forget it. And so I changed. But I've always loved the topic and loved all that. And so that's why I think I'm going to enjoy this conversation a lot. So let's get right into it, because I think you're going to be able to provide a lot of insight for some people. Yesterday was a unique day for me. In the morning, I attended a funeral. In the evening, I married somebody. And I was talking about on social media just the way life can vary so much. Like, I spent the morning with a family who was literally just burying their mom. And then that evening, I was, spending probably the best moment of that couple's life. I don't do a lot of weddings nowadays. And it's really because I'm seeing more and more people not really even care to get married. So let's talk about that, especially since we're doing child dedication this coming Sunday, and a lot of the couples who have come to us are not married, living together, all that stuff. What is the deal with that? What do you feel about what is the hesitation of people getting married? I have two hypotheses, and I want to know if you think that's it or something else. Okay. Is it a fear of commitment, or with the internet and social media, is it just that there are so many people are aware of so many options now that they don't want to lock in on one? Or is it neither of those?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both,
okay.
Right? There's at the heart of both of those statements is a connection issue, and also how our brain perceives options, right? Like, when we have options, we are least likely to invest emotionally, right? Like, I don't have to deal with this. Like, I just go somewhere else. I can find someone who wants to cook for me. I can find someone who makes more money, right? You're less likely to invest emotionally, especially when conflict starts to arise. So yeah, like if you have options, then you're gonna pursue those, and you may be willing to pursue those. Not that you should. And then I think the commitment piece is there's fear attached to it, right? And it will vary per person, but yeah.
Tell me about tell me about commitment in your space, because there's not just commitment to relationships. There's commitment to jobs. There's I'm seeing a lot of people doing the 2-year hop around. There's just something about commitment that freaks people out. Where does that come from, do you think? What's the fear there? I don't know.
We've committed to Christ, right? Because we have security in what he's producing for us.
Yeah.
Whether it's seen and unseen.
Yeah.
And I think people who lack the ability to commit to a job, to a person, to even their own commitments that they voice out loud, like, yeah, I'm going to show up to that, right? There's fear there, and fear that you aren't going to get the response that you want, fear that you're not going to make the amount of money that you need to make because the resources don't seem enough, your bills are piling up, right? I fear becomes the motivator, and that shows up differently for everyone, right? For some people, it shows up as avoidance, and for some people, it shows up as anxiety. Yeah, so I think that commitment issue is the inability to commit because you're afraid of whatever the results may be.
Okay, go dig a little deeper there, because I've heard those terms more recently. Are those tied to attachment styles, the avoidant and the anxious kind of stuff? So dig a little deeper there. How does somebody recognize which camp they fall in?
So yes, they are tied to attachment styles, and I mean, you could always do a simple assessment, but
they could just go online, and do a quick little assessment.
You can go online and do an assessment, but I think the things to pay attention to is when conflict arises. Are you someone who one runs towards it, like you want to solve it, or are you someone who runs away from it, or are you someone who becomes dysregulated, right? Like your nervous system gets shot, and you experience emotional flooding, which is basically fight or flight. Right? Do you experience fight or flight, or are you someone who's going to sit in the situation and address it?
Do you find that normally comes from their family of origin, or no? So break down family of origin. I haven't done a lot of counseling, but that's one that always stood out to me.
So the environment that you're raised in, the household that raises you, because obviously it's not always a mom and a dad. It could be an aunt, an uncle, grandma, things of that nature. And in truth, that person doesn't even have to be there. The absence of that person can shape how you show up, right?
Interesting.
And yes, we learn our attachment, security, or insecurity from previous relationships. And that is not just your family members, but that could be friendships as well. You had a friend who you trusted and they betrayed you, or you felt betrayed. Same thing for relationships where the person continues to show up in a way that triggers you, right? So our attachment styles are learned and reinforced by the individuals that we have around us.
You talked about FOMO, and we'll talk about options and stuff like that. Or you talked about fear, so I'll bring up FOMO.
Yeah.
This fear of missing out. I hear a lot of women. I don't know if it goes both ways, but I hear a lot of women who tell me that a guy sabotaged the relationship, not because it was unhealthy. He almost self-sabotaged.
Yeah.
Do you see that? Is that legit? Like, that's always fascinated me.
So, well, I will say first, when you are in a FOMO mindset, like you're missing out on something, then you view relationships as like loss, right? Like you're losing out, right? If I commit to this, I'm losing out on something. If I commit to her, but what about all these other girls? If I commit to this one guy, is he going to show up and take care of me the way I know some of these other people may, right?
Yeah.
So that having that mindset puts you in a space of, instead of cultivation, like cultivating relationships with people, you're evaluating You're in the evaluative state, right? You're constantly looking at social media. You're out and about. If you're in Miami, if you're downtown Brickell, you're in South Beach. You're like, oh, look at all these beautiful people, right? Look at my partner, right? So if you're in that state, if you're experiencing FOMO specifically around relationships, you're in a mindset where you're constantly going to evaluate your partner and deem them as less. So, which produces less connection over time.
And the interesting thing is, it all has to do, I think, with proximity. Because once you commit to somebody, you see every side of them. You got to smell their morning breath, like all that stuff, right? And I think we fairy tale other people who have all their makeup done and they're out at a lounge and it's like...
We see the highlights of their life.
Correct. Yeah. Which is the whole danger. So how did you meet your wife? I'm going to get to this. It's the whole danger of social media and online dating. Did you guys meet through online dating?
No, bro.
Okay, I didn't either, but I just want to check. How'd y'all meet? Church, whatever, work?
So we essentially worked. We worked for a nonprofit called City Year. Worst experience of I don't know about her life, but my life.
No.
It was the poorest I've ever been. But thankfully, I met my wife, right? A lot of people meet their spouses through City Year, which is crazy.
Through what is it?
City Year.
Okay.
It's basically a nonprofit. They go to inner city schools and basically provide academic support and after school programming.
What made it difficult?
We were pushing more than 8 hours a day. Like we were pushing like 10, sometimes 12 hours a day.
Overworked, undercompensated.
Yeah, 100% overcompensated. Every 2 weeks, $500.
Oh,
it was a bust.
Yeah.
So I have no idea why she even wanted to date me. I was poor. But
well, she was there too.
Yeah, so
you're poor together.
Yeah, so I started in August. She started in January. So I did a full year. She did a half year.
Okay.
We met because her cousin was my teammate. Right.
Okay.
So whenever this was before we were both walking in Christ, but whenever we were out and about, her cousin would show up. So my wife would show up. So, and eventually we started talking from there, but we started talking like in the month right when City Year was ending and I was leaving. I had full intention. I was like, I'm out. I'm moving on to better things. I have options. Yeah. I got options for jobs. I have options for people. I don't need this. Right. And, we spent a bit of time together before I ended up leaving to Tennessee. And I was in Bahamas. I was in Bahamas on like a trip with some friends, and I was just thinking about her. And I was like, this was before like you had real plans that could go cross country. So like every time you text someone, you get it increases your bill.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was just blowing up my bill, trying to have conversations with her. So when I got back from that trip, I was like, yeah, I know I'm leaving, but like, I want you to be my girlfriend. And then when I moved back from Tennessee, like 3 years later, we like really hit the ground running and like trying to show up for each other. There are a lot of things that we needed to unlearn. So my normal inside voice is like here. And for her, that was also yelling. Until she met my family and she was like, oh, you're not yelling. This is your inside voice.
This is just your inside voice.
Yeah, right. So, but also like learning how to, essentially what I'm speaking to is learning how to communicate, like with her specifically, right? And then also things of like setting boundaries with parents that we both had to learn, so we could like make our relationship work. So like we hit the ground of like essentially doing work to love each other the way sort of we wanted to be loved, and not necessarily God, which I think is important. I'm sure that we will get to, and which is what we're doing now. We're loving each other the way God intends us to love each other. But at that time, it was sort of doing a lot of healing first. And I like within the year of me being back, that's when we started coming to Oasis.
So you and I were spared from online dating.
Yeah.
What do you think the trouble is with that? If there is, I don't want to plant thoughts in your head. I think it's troubling, but
I think that the app is made to work for themselves, right? It's not really made for you to find an actual partner. I don't know what the statistics are, so I'd be a liar to make up numbers, but I know people who have been on the app for years and they haven't found a partner, right? So if the app is made for you to be on, and then you recognize the basic subscription isn't working, let me pay for the better version. Right? The app is made to work for itself. So it's going to keep spewing people that just don't work or that may just possibly work. Right? And I think on top of that, it depends on how you engage afterwards. Obviously, like you meet this person and how do you want to cultivate a relationship with them? And I think a lot of people use the app not for long-term commitment, but for temporary satisfaction.
Hookup culture.
Yeah. And it's options. You just swipe, and it's real easy. She has the cut. She has the eye color I like. I like the way her hair is done. Oh, I like this picture. Oh, she looks good in this swimsuit. And you're just swiping. You're just going. And there's no focus. There's no real focus. And there's a little blurb like, this is the thing.
Yeah.
I like to ride horses. Or
Yeah.
I like walks on the beach. And there's a little blurb, but none of it gives any evidence of character, in which we know you can find out post I guess like or match, right? Like you spend time together. Maybe you find that out, but it doesn't start off with cultivating knowing who that person is.
So, and then on the complete opposite, you have something like Love is Blind. Super trending Netflix show. Oh yeah, I want to hear it because you have no clue what the person looks like, and all you have to do is spend time getting to know each other. You sighed. I have my own opinions on that show. Why did you sigh? I want to hear.
I sighed because I've seen parts of the show, right? My wife watches it,
Yeah,
and I've seen them in the pods, and even in the pods, they're describing what they look like. Like love is supposed to be blind, but you're describing what you look like,
which is like, let's be real. We're all kind of lack self-awareness. Everybody does. So they're probably hyping themselves up a little more than they.
But even pieces of like, if I said I was athletic, right? Now you know that I have a nice physical build, right?
Or at least you think you do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I think I do.
Yeah,
You might start to think I do.
Yeah,
right. So I don't think it's as blind as they want it to believe. And also, again, don't know the statistics. Love is Blind, Married at First Sight, like all those shows, their success rate is poor.
Yeah, I've heard. I don't know the statistics either, but I've heard.
Yeah, it's really poor. Like, again, making up this number, but like 1 in 20 people.
Yeah.
1 in 20 people actually stay married across, what, 6 seasons, 7 seasons, however many seasons they have.
know, man.
Like, so at best, every season, one person maybe stays together, and there's some seasons where no one stays together.
Yeah.
So it's not producing what they think it's producing.
But that's the thing, right? So you have apps which are primarily, I mean, let's be real. You upload 6 pictures and that's the primary thing because you're right. The blurb is that small. Then you have one where you can't even see the person and it's all talking and neither of them seem to be working. What is going on? Like, what is the difference between how culture is how we're taught to find somebody in culture versus like what is God's design? What does he actually want us to do?
I think God wants us to cultivate relationship, so I think, and not just like relationship with a partner, right? Cultivate relationship with him, cultivate relationship with ourselves, cultivate relationships with other people. And in that cultivating relationships with other people, we get to see character before we, as we are noticing the physical appearance, right? Because I'd be a liar to be like, yeah, all you see is character and you see their heart and stuff like that. But also you see if they're attractive or not. Like
sure.
you have eyes.
Sure.
I think the expectation biblically is like in that cultivating of the relationship that we are examining ourselves. I think in like James 4, James 4:1, it says something about like the fights that you have, the quarrels that you're experiencing. Is it not your desires into like that are warring within you, right? Like if I have beef with you, it's because something is going on internally with me, and I should examine that. And I think we do less time examining, or these shows, these apps don't facilitate the space for that in comparison to the natural your ability to facilitate conversation or engage with people in like a common space, right? In church.
So break that down. Oh, okay. Break that down a little.
So like meeting. So if you're serving in your church, right? If you're serving people, you're showing up, you're loving on people, right? You will naturally see someone's character, right? You will naturally see their character. It doesn't even have to be in church, right? It could be in your job space. I would careful around dating at your job. But
what can go wrong?
Yeah, like in these spaces where you're just attempting to live your best life, serve and honor God, you will naturally build relationships.
Yeah.
Which gives you the opportunity to see who this person is.
Yeah.
Instead of jumping straight into let's date, like let's let me see who you are. But again, I think that's difficult to do if you don't have the mindset of, I need to be friends with this person first. I need to know what church they go to. Or I need to know how they not only love God, but how do they love their parents? How do they love their siblings or their friends? Like, how do they show up for those things?
That's a good point. I met my wife doing ministry together. I was doing youth ministry. She was doing youth ministry. We had that shared interest, and we really just developed a relationship there. But I've always told people, and I don't know if you think this is true too, is like, I find that a lot of people find their person once they stop obsessing over looking for them. And that's not true in all cases, but I know some people who are like, they're in a season of singleness, and it's all they think about. And I don't know, I find that when you're like that, I don't know, I find that they don't find anybody. And as soon as they stop, it's like, oh yeah, I ran into somebody. It's working out well.
I think, or my thoughts around that is, do you want the person that you found or the person that God sent you? Right? So if you allow God to work, because he's working, he's always working, right? In the seen and the unseen. If you allow him to work, he knows the desires of your heart, and he will produce it in some fashion or form. Obviously, it may not be exactly the way we want, but if we're looking, I know we may want romantic partners, but sometimes in the season we need friendships.
Yeah.
Right? We need a reconciled relationship with family. Right? People who are going to love and pour into us and show up and teach us or present opportunities for forgiveness and kindness and being patient and the list of things that show up in 1 Corinthians, right?
Yeah.
Of not keeping a record of wrong and things of that nature, right?
I just covered that at the wedding yesterday, 1 Corinthians 13, which everybody always constantly is like, oh yeah, that, but we just don't live it out.
It's difficult.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's
of course.
What's the... And at the bottom it says the greatest thing of all this is love, right?
Like hope, faith, and love, and the greatest of these three is love.
And I think that piece of like record of wrongs, right? It's really hard for couples to not do, for people to not do in general, right? Like it's hard to not feel slighted. It's hard to want an apology that you're probably never gonna get. It's hard to accept that maybe actually you were in the wrong and not that person was in the wrong. I think that record of wrong is what gets a lot of us caught up. So yeah, if I kept that record, I'm not gonna forgive you. I'm not gonna have grace. I won't be patient with you. I won't have tolerance. And more times than not, if those attachment styles that we were talking about, right? Like in that avoidance or in the anxiety, it's more times than not a reflection of a low capacity for distress tolerance. So when things...
Break that down for me. That's too high for me. Break that down. Dumb it down for me.
Okay, so distress tolerance, basically when things start to heat up, what do you do? Like, can you work through it or do you run from it? And the running can look different for different people, but more times than not, like in the Journal for Marital and Family Therapy, they produce research articles and things of that nature. They've noted that most couples who come in and they note that their marital problems are commitment problems, it's more times than not attachment injuries, right? Like things that have triggered like their attachment style, like made them want to run, made them want to hide, right?
So when you say commitment issues, they're scared they're going to cheat or something?
They scared of various things. Scared that this person's going to leave the way a family member left.
Okay.
Scared that if I commit to this or if I give my all in this, then I lose autonomy. I lose freedom. I lose my options, right? And which is usually reflective of a time when they didn't have options, didn't have choices, right? So if I engage in this thing and it reminds me of how it felt like my mom never had a choice in her marriage, like I want no parts of that. Yeah, I want no parts. So yes, when we don't have distress tolerance, when we don't have the ability to manage when things become stressful, we choose the other options. Or I'll just find someone who's less stressful. Yeah. I'll find someone who, like, if I'm gonna use the cooking example again, right? I'll find someone who wants to make meals for me, right?
Yeah.
I'll find someone who wants to work out with me, right? I don't want to deal with this back and forth about me asking you, you don't want to, we get into an argument about it. Or I'll find someone who wants to help me manage money better, right? You want to spend, I want to save. We can't get on the same page about it. It seems like we never have enough. Fine, I'll
I'm a spender. I'm going to find another spender. That'll work out well.
Yeah, right? So...
But that's the trap, I think, as I'm hearing you say that, because you're not that you're never going to find that, but I think we see that in other people. But I would wager that it's just because you haven't fully even learned about that person. In other words, sure, you can find somebody that's going to cook for you, but even that person is going to get tired at some point of cooking for you.
Yeah.
And then it's like over and over again. I back to the drawing board of having to find someone.
Gary Thomas, the author of A Sacred Marriage, he notes something about like marriage being the problems that you see in marriage are things that are revealed from like that live inside of you, right? Marriage is a mirror that reflects what's already living here. Mm-hmm. And I believe the same thing is true if you're like dating and you're noticing all these things that are peeving you about your partner. Something lives here that you need to address. So yes, you may think that you're gonna find someone who's gonna do all the things, and this is not to say you should settle. This is not. Yeah. There's not me implying that. What I do think is you should put in the work to examine yourself and examine what fruit is being produced in this relationship.
You're making me think because, and probably you already know this, and I'm just kind of learning this. Probably the reason with those shows is they do just try to find, I think, compatibility. But like I don't watch the shows. I might pop in from walking from one room to another and I see clips. And I might sit down for a little bit, but I don't watch it religiously. But I've never seen scenes, and I say that because maybe I've just missed it, where they're like, okay, beyond just you're compatible with this person, let's work on you. Maybe that's why those shows don't work, because they're never actually working on themselves. Issues within. Yeah, it's just we're going to try to find somebody who's as compatible as we can find out of this pool
and then
of people.
these fake tools that are sort of provided for them from the experts to reconcile. And
that's perfect. It's going to segue us because you use a lot of therapy language because you're a therapist, rightfully so. I find that there are a lot of people who have grasped onto therapy language, but I don't know if they fully understand it or they're even. Do you see that online? A lot of people using their attachment styles and this and that. Is it helping or is it not helping at all? Because sure you can know it, but I don't know if people are applying it.
If you're not just the language, but if you're using the tools or the resources that you've picked up in therapy, the purpose of it should be to explore how things can be changed, made better. Right? If there is a presenting issue, hey, there's an issue, and instead of me being like, oh, you have an avoidant attachment style, like me telling you and using it as a form to attack you is not producing the result that you think is going to produce, right? Me telling you should be, hey, like I've noticed this in you. I don't know where it might stem from, but like I want to explore that with you, right? Like that's different, right? I'm bringing up the language or I'm using the tool so I can say, hey, let's work on this. Mm-hmm. And even if someone was bringing up on the other end, right? Like you're telling me things like hopefully I have a heart where I'm open to like learn and see. And like in Proverbs 21, it says something about like, to be a good disciple, like you should be willing to learn, like seek knowledge, right? Like I got to be open to that, right? If someone's seeing something in me, evaluate the source of where it's coming from. Right? If this is your partner who you've committed to spending time with or marrying or you've married, right? Evaluate the source. Is this someone who has hate for you or someone who has love for you? Take in that information and see if there's truth in it, and vice versa. If you're using this language, if you're using the tools that you've picked up, it should be to edify your partner. Yeah. Right? Like, what's the point of bringing it up if nothing changes?
Yeah, or not to weaponize it against them or something like that. What do you find is the most difficult part of providing therapy to people, and as far as like where does it kind of halt a lot of the times? Like, what's the stumbling block?
Some people just aren't ready. Some people aren't ready to hear the hard truths.
You're saying like they're dragged by the other person or something, or they think they're ready but they're not.
No. So a lot of times, it's usually one person who wants to bring in the other individual. And shout out for them having that heart of like, hey, like I need help in my marriage. But if the other person doesn't see it, it's all for naught. Like we're literally sitting here wasting time. And I don't necessarily. I don't want to see couples. I don't want to see couples like that. But more so of like I'm transparent with them of like, hey, this isn't going to produce anything if you're not at least open. And if I notice that you aren't open, then maybe I need to refer you to someone else, right? There's no point in me. There is a point in me making money. I have a household to take care of.
Yeah.
But it's not going to produce anything. It's not anything I can be proud or happy about. It's not. I won't feel like I'm honoring God in seeing a couple who no fruit is necessarily being produced. And obviously, I know I won't always see the fruit. But I think that willingness is important in both partners. And I think from there, what I've noticed, at least from my own counseling of couples, it's like external things, like family, like kids,
Money.
Yeah, money. You're not on one accord. You're not on one accord, and all these other things have more say. Oh, like I'm gonna work. I'm gonna work more hours to make more money. Right, you need to be home. You have a wife and a child at home, or you have a husband and a child at home, right? Like, I'm gonna spend time with my coworkers, right? And you need to be home. You're not home, right?
Yeah.
She needs help with the things, or he needs help with the things. Yeah. Or I need to help my mom. I need to help my mom with some stuff. So then you're gone for a week or 2 weeks. Everyone and everything else seems to be a priority outside of your own marriage. You actually said something to me once. I think it was when I first started the New Believers group, or you asked me to do the New Believers group. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, also, I want you to know that you're only signing me up. You're not signing my wife up. And your response was, no, like, I know that. And if it ever becomes a conflict for your marriage, stop it, because your marriage is your first ministry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's your priority, it's your first ministry. So, and like that's always stuck with me as we are making decisions, or I think about things relating to ministry.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've appreciated you is you've always been you're just a thoughtful person. Obviously, I think people can hear it while you speak. So you've always been you don't rush to decisions and stuff, and for as young as a couple y'all are, there's so much wisdom in you guys. My wife started, her first job in South Florida was actually at a therapy office, and just as like an admin, office manager. And what she found, and maybe it was unique to that office, you could tell me otherwise, was she felt like so many couples came in once it was too late.
Yeah. What is it? The American Association of Christian Counselors. So they have like papers that speak to like by the time most couples come in, or by the time a decision is being made, either no work has been done or no in-depth work has been done. Right, like the true work of like not just only going to therapy, but really trying to apply the tools towards reconciliation. Right, decisions for like divorce and separation are just made. Yeah.
Well, what do you so you got couples that are coming in and they're probably feeling like severely disconnected. Like, is that possible to rebuild? I hear only because I hear couples say, and normally it's outside of people who know God, like we fell out of love, and they say it in a way of like it's done, it's a wrap. Thoughts?
I think love is an action.
I agree.
Like for everything that shows up in the 1 Corinthians, like the things that you put into practice.
Yeah.
So love isn't the feeling. Like you don't. Gary Thomas, author of Sacred Marriage, he says a line that like no one's unlovable. You've just decided to stop loving them.
That's so good.
You decided to stop doing the actions that were going to be loving towards them, right? And I recognize that there are a number of circumstances that are in extremes that, due to lack of safety, emotional, physical safety, and things of that nature, infidelity, these extreme things that arise within your marriage, that make you crave safety, even if that is leaving your partner. Like I recognize these things exist, and also the thought on that is, as a Christian, right, is your vows, for better or worse, did you make them only in hopes that your partner would keep up their part, or were your vows specifically for you to keep up, right? Like maybe they didn't keep up their part, and can you keep up your part? Because your vow wasn't to necessarily just solely to your partner, it was to God, right? And sometimes we have this idea about what the four worse is, of like car accident, cancer, lost child, any of the things, right? And we think, yeah, this is the four worst. I hope these things don't happen, but this is the four worst, and we're gonna thug it out together. But what if what if infidelity is your four worst? Will you still love your partner in action? Yeah.
What do they do then? What are the steps? I mean, go see a therapist and what?
So this is, I would say, with guidance from your therapist and church body community. I was like, think about like potentially an intentional uncoupling with the thought of, hey, we're gonna separate. No, we're not gonna divorce. We're gonna separate so we can do the work.
As individuals.
We're gonna do the work, right? And we occasionally show up together so we could, for therapy, we show up to get prayed over, to speak to our disciplers, so on and so forth, right? So we can do the work, we can come back together, right? For people who aren't, if that's right, we're not doing that. I would say to pause and pray. Like, are you going to make a permanent decision in the moment of temporary dysregulation? So whenever that emotional flooding happens, that fight or flight, whenever it kicks in, like, are you making a decision in fear? I know it says it in multiple places. I can't think of a specific, but that the perfect love drives out fear. Right? So, like, if we're moving in love, then we can make healthier, smarter, long-term decisions. If we're moving in fear or in hurt, we're probably going to make poor decisions that are going to affect us in the long run.
Is that able to be worked on? So when you break it all down, the act of love are actions. Actions are made by decisions. Decisions are made in your mind. I hear so many people who just say, that's just how I am. That's just how I react. That's my nature. Is that changeable? Are there what tools do they use?
Okay, so yes. So I want to make sure I answer the previous question and this one, right? So I think tools, like, go to therapy, have community, have people who are going to pray over you, have people that you can confidently have conversations with about your marriage that are going to lead you in a better path. If you don't have discernment, the Spirit gives us discernment so we can make those decisions, right? Because everyone doesn't necessarily need to know your business. But in community, there has never been a time that in any training that I've ever been, and they were like, community is bad for you. Community is going to ruin your marriage, or it's going to ruin your individual life, right? So pray, spend time with God, find community, people who are going to support you. And hopefully, if you have a good therapist, they're providing tools, right? Tools of how do we improve our communication? How do we recognize when I personally am in a dysregulated state, or I'm personally moving from a place of fear or being triggered, or I'm moving out of anger instead of love? And once I can identify those things, I can hopefully correct my behavior or correct how I'm speaking to my partner, and vice versa, that both people are doing the work to evaluate self and then show up. And ideally show up not just how your partner needs you to show up, but how God calls you to show up.
Yeah. I feel like I'm jumping around, but it's just as you talk more and more things, I think of people and situations, because a lot of the times I feel like when a couple's hurting, there is that one person that really wants to work on it, and then there's the other person who's just along for the ride. And normally the person who wants to work on it gets some tools. And here's what I've seen it happen in relationships. They are just trying to apply the tools, and then the other person feels like you're trying to like psychoanalyze me,
manipulate me, force me into a heart change.
So how do you? There might not even be an answer. It's just like, how does somebody who wants the help, who's trying to put the tools, practice with the tools, address someone who's then like, stop doing that to me? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, we pray. We Stormy or Martian, the author of A Power of Praying Husband, Power of Praying Couple, Power of Praying Wife, all the stuff, parents as well. She notes that like focusing in on self, like it's not about like you want to pray for, like you want to like pray for change, right? Like just pray over your spouse, right? And God will do the work. But you should be praying that there's change internally. I think in having faith in the same God that transformed your heart, you have faith in the God that can transform other people's hearts. So in the application of tools, you have to evaluate, are you using the tools to force change, or are you using the tools for yourself? If you use the tools for yourself and leave room for change, I don't think there's ever been a time when people were forced into anything that it stuck.
Yeah.
At least that it stuck long term.
Yeah.
Right? Fine. Yeah, I'll go to church with you, I guess. Yeah, I'll go to this marriage thing. And then things might change for a season, but there was no internal desire for them to do this thing in the first place, so they fall out of it.
That's the whole concept of the philosophy of the existence of evil and all that, and God's free will is, in order for there to be true and actual love, you can't force it. You allow that person to make a decision. They either choose to reciprocate that love or not. Thus, sin enters the world and all that stuff. I can just hear people saying, it's like, I think one of the first things people always learn is to use I feel statements. Yeah. Right? But then it turns into, I feel like you are being a knucklehead. And I feel like, right? And the other person's like, what do you know, and it just starts fights.
But the I feel, that's not using it correctly, right?
There you go.
The I feel statement is meant to focus on what you're experiencing. Like, in this moment, I feel unheard. In this moment, I don't feel safe with how this decision turned out. Right? Like, it's solely supposed to be focused on, like, what you're experiencing because of whatever the action was, right? And hopefully we're viewing the action not as one intentional attack, to a fact of character of like who this person is, right? Like, we're viewing it as an action. It was just a thing that happened. It happened. Okay, so when this thing happened, not this thing that you did, but when this thing happened, and obviously contextually we know the person, you did the thing to me, but it's not to give blame. It's to say, this is what I experienced because the thing happened. Because factually it did. You know it happened. I know it happened. The thing happened. And this is what my experience is. And if you have a good partner, and if we talk about red flags, right? If you have a good partner, they'd be like, okay, yeah, I did actually do this thing, and my partner was affected. Like, what can we do to reconcile? What can we do to mend this, so that we're back on the same page?
What is the red flag of a bad partner versus good partner?
Being unwilling to engage in repair, right? Something happens, you can't take accountability. You don't want to do the work to get to a better place. Weaponizing language or weaponizing history to attack, and to avoid accountability. If we're talking like biblically and spiritually, like all the things, like they don't pray, they don't go to church, they aren't serving, and it's not necessarily they're a bad partner. It's just if you were actively doing those things, they may not be the partner for you.
I would say it's a compatibility issue. That's what I always tell people. You could do it if you want. It's just you guys are going to be really incompatible.
Are you unyoked?
That's the biblical term. You guys are going to be unyoked, and it's not going to be. That's the illustration of one ox is running full speed and the other one's slow. Now you're just spinning in circles because there's no movement, there's no momentum. How do you see those red flags though before you get too deep? Should you clue in on their friendships, clue in on like family behaviors? Because they're probably in that relationship potentially because they missed the red flag.
Yeah. So, at least in the dating stage, if when conflict arises, what do? Do they run? Do they hide? Do they cling? Right? And this is not necessarily to say that this person is a bad person. It's just, hey, like, this is something of concern. I think the red flags is, I think people automatically be like, yeah, they're a horrible person. But if you see a red flag, it's a warning to say, like, can we talk about this? Right? And if they're unwilling, red flag, right? So, but, or if they're unwilling, then you make decisions to, like, cut it off. But one, how do they manage conflict? How do they talk to people in general? Whether it's like service people at a restaurant, whether it's family, whether it's friends, like how do they speak out in love and compassion and care?
I've actually used that in hiring. I'll sometimes purposely take people to third places because they, when you're hiring, they'll say whatever to you. I want to see how they're talking to the person at the register, the person sweeping the floor.
Yeah.
Because at some point in the relationship, that's how they're going to look at you.
Yeah.
Right?
They're going to see you doing a task, and they're going to respond to you in the way that they believe a person who does this task should be spoken to.
Yeah.
So those things, I think other things in relation to how they manage their finances, right? Like, are they living within their means? Also, what is their relationship like with themselves? Again, not saying that these are character flaws, but saying, do they take care of their physical health? Do they take care of their mental health? Are they emotionally vulnerable? Do they answer every question with "I'm good, I'm okay"? Right. So,
and and that's, I feel like that's on a spectrum because I recognize that in myself. I can my wife is super helpful in that because I mentioned this Sunday. I was never good at regulating or describing emotions because I didn't grow up in a house where we talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
So everything was either mad, happy, or sad. And she had to teach me that, it. It's all
the emotional wheel. Yeah,
the little one. She's like, no, you're disappointed. Or I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, I guess that you're right.
That's usually the first thing I give the couples, recognizing that a lot of people don't have the emotional vocabulary to describe what's going on with them. And then the follow-up usually is like, oh, yeah, I felt disappointed. When's the last time you felt disappointed? Or when's the first time you felt disappointed?
Interesting.
Right? Like that first time usually will indicate a pattern of every single time a similar experience has happened, it's reminding me of this, and I want no parts, which is why I back away, or which is why I stay quiet.
It's like almost like a trigger.
Yes.
Interesting.
Right. So that's one of the first things I typically do with any person I see, but usually couples, like, hey, here's the emotional wheel. Let's talk about this incident. What's the feelings that you experienced in this? When's the first time you experienced these? And then more times than not, at least I think more often now, people might be having conversations about what their past history is, but at least the couples that I've been seeing, it's like, oh, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you had experienced that. I just
not asking deep questions.
I just knew that you didn't talk to your mom, and that was it.
All right, let me do this. Want to wrap up in a little bit, but I want to bring up 3 couples, and I just want you to if they walked in your office or your Zoom meeting, what would be your encouragement? And there are 3, I think you see it commonly, so I think you know the answer. I think of one couple who has been together 8 years, they have kids together, they have a house together, they're Christians.
Yeah.
They profess Christ. Girl wants to get married, guys, like, what's the point? What's the point? That's my question. They're already kind of doing the thing. What's the point of the marriage?
So if anyone comes into my office and they're like they're Christian, I'd be like, okay, I can use scripture,
Yeah, okay,
right?
yeah.
Like we can do some Bible things. We can bring up things, and I'm not the best. I don't have like the best memory of like exact verses,
Sure.
but right. So, okay, you say you're this. Like, do you live for Christ, right? You die to self. You want to honor God in everything that you do. Is what you're doing honoring God, right? So. If anything, if you say that you love Christ, then you want to honor God. And also I usually like psychoeducation, right? Which is providing information about statistics and information of what unmarried households or single households.
Tell them, bro, because they never believe me. Tell them the stats. I know you probably don't know off the top of your head.
Yeah. So, but more times than not, the effects of like single parent households or the effects of unmarried households, they set the precedent for your children to recreate the same experience.
Yep. Divorce rates are higher. It's but because I'm the pastor, they don't believe that.
Yeah. So, there was a period of like gray divorces, which is basically of like people in their 50s or like 40s, and I think it's like 45 and up, right? People,
What do they call that? Gray divorce?
Gray divorce, right? Like you've reached like decades of being married, gray hair or silver
Ah.
or silver split. I think that's what they call it sometimes, right? Of like, and you've reached all this point, and then you separate. But then you separate for various reasons, verbal, and domestic abuse, things of that nature. But
a lot of those cases I
split
heard
because of finances, emptiness. Like your kids left.
I was gonna say a lot of couple like growing up, all my friends whose parents got divorced, it was like right around the same time. It's like, oh, as soon as I went to college, my parents split.
Yeah, they split. So but to that couple, I would say, do you want to honor God, right? How do you think that you can honor God in not just having a relationship, but in a marriage? Like, imagine. I find it difficult. I think people find it difficult to imagine. Like when the older you get, like this, the playfulness, the freeness of being able to think about what my options really are. Like if I woke up tomorrow, like what would be different sort of situation if it was just snapping my fingers. Like and obviously if you can imagine it, then we can possibly create steps towards it. So if you can imagine what would change, what do you think there could be more of? How do you think God would honor that? Because if you're honoring God, He's gonna honor you. So those would essentially be the conversations that we would have, and also explore why you don't. Like you're saying, what's the point? But like there has to be more than what's the point.
Yeah, they just don't dig deep. All right, let me give you one. Let me give you another one, and then I'll have one more after that. I find this is where my wife and I are in. Is we
you talked to her before you shared this?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure.
Yeah. We're well aware of it. We do all the work, and I think it's the same as I think it's the same as our own Christian lives. It's like the deeper you get in Scripture, the more aware you are of your shortcomings. Like if you read the Bible at a surface level, you're like, I'm not that bad. I haven't killed anybody. I'm fine. And then you read the words of Jesus. It's like, well, if you look at a person with hate, you've already committed murder in your heart. Yeah. And so I find that the more we work, the more we just realize, man, we have even so much more work to do.
Yeah.
Please tell me that's normal. You look like a healthy couple. Do you guys feel that same way?
Yeah. We have tiffs all the time. My wife is pregnant right now.
Now I can breathe.
Yeah. So I will say the way we argue now isn't how we argued when we first got together. Because again, my inside voice is here, so my angry voice was even higher, right?
Yeah.
So, and like different things of like avoidance or shrinking, not communicating, like all those things have sort of disappeared. But like we still have, like right now, because she's pregnant, she's experiencing all the hormones and things like that. Like I feel like sometimes she don't like me. Or she's annoyed with me, and I'm like, what did I do? I'm just here.
You're just existing. That's
right,
the problem.
right. And then if I'm not aware of myself and what I'm experiencing, I'll be like, yo, what you got going on?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why you mean mugging me, right? So, but I have to like evaluate, like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where she may be at. This consideration of where she's at, and where it will die out. It'll die out, right? Less than 5 minutes, but. To the piece of like having to do work, I think we're constantly being refined because we don't stay the same.
Yeah.
Like who we are when we start our walk, who we are when we started a job, who we are when we got married or when we were dating is not who we are 6 months, a year. If you were staying the same, if you were stagnant in your life, then you need to evaluate.
Yeah.
You need to reevaluate what's going on because ideally we should be growing. Like we're supposed to be producing fruit, right? From that analogy, right? If we're like trees and we're producing fruit, we go through seasons of change.
Yeah.
And if you aren't experiencing change, then it's concerning. Yeah. So it's perfectly fine to be in this place where you are having discussions around like what's going on in the household, things that your spouse is seeing, right? Because if marriage is a mirror, mm-hmm. right? Marriage is the thing that brings you closer to holiness, right? Because they're constantly seeing things, or you're seeing things in yourself.
Yeah.
It's a normal thing. It's normal.
I think if anything, I've had to kind of just be like, okay, yeah. I think when you get to like 10 years, you think, I should have had this figured out by now. And to me, it's been a like a release to be like, no, I'm always going to feel like I got to work on myself, and we're probably always going to have work that we got to do.
Two thoughts. One, the Gottman Institute, which is like a marriage and families, is a really famous marriage therapist. Notes that like 69% of like fights are like reoccurring.
Oh yeah, I talked about that this Sunday.
Right,
yeah.
like they're going to be reoccurring fights, and I think the other thing is, like, we just got to get into the habit of dying to ourselves. We got to get in the habit of dying to ourselves so that we can, so in our submission to Christ, like he can do the work.
Yeah.
And if you're not a Christian, then get into the habit of self-examining what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Because more times than not, conflict that you were experiencing is a trigger from whatever your internal wounds are.
Yeah, it's that's why I said it this Sunday. We kind of committed to at least once a year do like a weekend intensive, just because we've kind of come to the conclusion we're never going to have this figured out. It's constant work. It's sanctification in the marriage, really.
But I had a discipler when I first got baptized. And I don't know this to be true. I don't have the biblical evidence for it, is what I mean. But he said something to me, and he's like, everyone has a sin or something that they're always going to struggle with, because it will remain as an opportunity for you to honor God through it. Right? Like, you're going to honor God through all these other things, but you consistently choosing to say no to this sin, or say no to this addiction, or say no to whatever the thing is, right?
Yeah.
Like, that as you say no, God gets honored and other people are honored, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last one. Somebody's listening, and this is probably a lot of people, bro, and they're secretly thinking about leaving their marriage. There's a lot of people outside of church, and there's a lot inside, I'm telling you, who they have those papers stored away in the back of the closet, and they've been waiting for months or years to just, I think this is the day I'm going to just give it to them. What do you tell them?
I think I said this, I said this earlier, of like making permanent decisions from temporary dysregulation, right? Like, if you haven't done the work towards reconciliation, then you're probably still in a dysregulated state. You're still in that fight or flight. And it's not the ideal space to be in, mental or emotional state to be in, to make decisions. If you have achieved some sense of clarity about you leaving, I would still say pray.
Yeah.
Pray about it. Paul writes like, hey, like, don't you know that you sanctify your husband? And husband, don't you know you sanctify your wife, right? Like that is still possible only if you are still married.
Yeah.
I think in those extreme cases that we mentioned earlier, of like the intentional uncoupling, right?
Yeah,
so we can do the work and things of that nature. But more times than not, outside of those, right? Outside of those circumstances, are you choosing to stop loving your partner, or have you deemed them as unlovable, right? Because if your love was conditional upon how they treat you, it's not love, or at least not the love that we see biblically.
Yeah. Yeah, if Jesus treated us with that kind of love, he would have gave up on us all a long time ago.
Facts, right? So at least for the Christians, it's can you love even when you aren't being loved?
Yeah.
Because God loves us when we're not loving him.
Oh, yeah.
For the non-Christian, I encourage you to exhaust your resources.
That's good.
I encourage you to exhaust your resources, right? And that's individual therapy, that's couples counseling if your partner's up for it. There's actually a scripture maybe in Timothy, but basically it's like, hey, if they're sinning and they don't want to sin, and if they're sinning and they don't want to repent, bring it to the pastor.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah. I think that's Mark 10. Not Matthew 8. It might be Matthew 18.
Okay, so, right, of like using your community.
Correct. Go to them. If they don't want to fix it, go grab somebody else and have it.
So, yeah, find support. And sometimes we have to recognize that you don't have the tools and the resources. I recognize as a licensed professional that I don't have the tools and resources for everyone, so I have to refer.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like I can't help you with this. You should consider seeing one of these people. I know they're really good with this, or they use this very specific technique that will be beneficial for what you have going on. So if you don't have the tools and resources, find them.
If somebody wants to, if they like what they hear and they're like convicted, can we drop your link in the bio?
Yes. I need a link. So right now I practice out with Miami Gardens Counseling in office and virtually. So I could share that one. But
Okay. Send that. We'll drop it in the bio.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if anybody wants to sign up with you, I think that'll be beneficial. Somebody came up to me after this Sunday and she said they'd been going through stuff. And she said something, which I think is just echoing all you've been saying this entire time. She said, our marriage has gotten better, not because he changed or anything's really changed, but because God's been changing me. And somehow it's making it just easier. I'm not so worked up about it anymore. And I just hear you over and over saying it's more look within. So, man, appreciate this conversation. I'm sure all the people are. We're going to drop your bio. We're going to drop the link to see you in your bio. And I wrap up a lot of our episodes with guests praying. So would you pray for maybe some people who are dealing with some marital stuff?
Yeah, bet.
Awesome.
Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to not just share some scripture, but to have conversations about your expectations and your desire for marriage and for relationships. I pray that whatever we shared, whatever came from our lips, that people are edified, hearts are transformed, that a seed is planted. I pray for individuals who are struggling in their marriage or their relationships, that they can find the tools and the resources to transform their own individual hearts, and the patience to allow God to transform their spouse's heart. I pray that these couples can be submitted to each other. I pray that Alex and I can be submitted to our wives and vice versa. Yeah. And that decisions that we make them out of love and not fear or hurt. I pray all these things in your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, bro.